What's wrong with the sheriff? What's wrong with the sheriff? That right now, to me, is the big question. Last week, a big hearing in the case where, for the first time, we heard from the defense about part of where they are going in this case legally, procedurally, inside of the courtroom. And I think it's crucial. But it raises the question that may be the most important question for the trial of Sheriff Mickey Steins, accused of taking out Judge Mullins in his chambers on video. No audio to it, just video. But what's the explanation? And it comes down to, as I've been saying now for quite some time, and now some level of confirmation from the defense in the last court appearance. And it's about this question: what's wrong with the former Kentucky sheriff, Mickey Steins? Answer that question, you may have a much better idea about exactly what's going to happen at this trial and how we can answer the question we've been asking from the beginning, which is why? Why would a sheriff do that in plain sight, in the middle of the day, on video? I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you aboard today. Great to see you. Thank you for joining me. It is time for Vinny Live.
Get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready to post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
There you go. It's a work in progress. Not finalized. Let's give it a little more insight. Start to know this. All right, folks, I'm Vinny Politan. It is great to have you with me. I'm the lead anchor of Court TV, true crime network that covers the nation's biggest trials. If there's a big trial, it's our cameras, our microphones that are inside. They were there for Alec Murdaugh, Johnny Depp, obviously back in the day, the Juice. But here we go. This case out of Kentucky has been grabbing headlines for quite some time, but little pieces are coming out. This is a story where I think the people who know exactly what happened and why it happened aren't saying anything. And the people who don't know are trying to figure it out and talking a lot about it. So what I like to go by as you start covering things, obviously things that become public, whether it's a video, whether it's discovery, like in Florida, when discovery is exchanged, it becomes public. Sometimes there are court filings and there's information in there that you can kind of go through and figure out. And then there are the actual court appearances. Today, I'm going to talk about a court appearance. It was from last week. There's been a lot going on, but I had some time to think about it. And what really struck me, obviously the words of his attorneys, but also just looking at the defendant. Let me make this a little bigger for you. If you look at his expression, and as we watch, I'm going to play for you what the defense attorney says, but as he's talking, yeah, you can watch him, but I want you to watch the sheriff in the middle, because he was a very public figure, right? As the sheriff. He was public on social media, and he was just out there. And the person that I see there is much different than the person I see here. The expression, the way he's, comporting himself. There's obviously something wrong. The question is, what's wrong? What caused it? How did it manifest itself? And what exactly is it? Those are the questions that I believe will get us to the why of all of this. Because there's obviously something wrong. There's obviously something wrong. Because if he was of his right mind, he's a man of the law, right? He's the sheriff. If there was something going on, he as the sheriff can stop it, like using the power of the law to arrest. And if there's some conflict of interest, he has the connections to talk to neighboring sheriffs. They work together to talk with the state police. If there was something going on connected to this judge that was illegal and dangerous, right? Like if he's of his right mind and there's nothing wrong, that's how you would approach it. Yeah, you might be angry if it touches home, but being of right mind, you know the way to take care of that problem. It's actually your job. It's your job description. It's to find people who are breaking the law and protect the public, right? So if nothing was wrong, that's how I believe he would handle a situation if there was something going on with the sheriff. Now, if he's not right, if there's something wrong with him, the way he deals with the issue will manifest itself much differently. Much differently. It will manifest itself in the way things played out here. In committing an offense on video in front of the world. And then turning yourself in. Like, that part doesn't make sense. If you're of right mind. You have a wife, you have a daughter, you have a family, you have a career. You've spent your career putting people behind bars. That's the last place you want to be. You might run into some folks, right, that don't think too highly of you none of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. There's something wrong. So let's start. And I want to play the hearing again from last week, because I want to sort of peel it back and talk about how what we hear there, how it will then play out in terms of the way this case moves forward. But what struck me was the demeanor of the defendant, the former sheriff. So all right, so I'm going to get to it right here. I've got it queued up. So let's start to listen.
I also failed to mention Mr. Jim Cox, who is co-counsel with our office. He is appearing by Zoom as well, Your Honor. And if I may speak to discovery, they have provided a plethora of voluminous discovery. We're continuing to go through that at this point.
Okay. Take notes here. We're going to take notes as we're going through this. First thing, voluminous discovery. Okay. That will tell us something. I think voluminous means different things to different people. But we'll take him at his word that it's voluminous.
All of our discovery requests have been met. And at this point, there are no outstanding discovery issues that we're aware of.
All right.
So what
look at him. Look at the sheriff. Emotionless. Like, I get it. Defendants don't but he's not alive. Now, he could be medicated at this point, right? That's possible. So if he's medicated, then there is something wrong with him. But also you have to be careful with medicating someone who is making a court appearance, right? You can't be completely out of it at your own court appearance. Like, you have a constitutional right to be there of sound mind and body able to participate in your own defense and understand what's going on. But yeah, he does look medicated. He's kind of doing this back and forth. There's a little bit of this now. Okay, that could be, again, medication. It could be something going on in his mind. It could also be trying to get closer to the screen to see the people in the Zoom call. I don't know. But let's continue to watch. He doesn't look right. There's something wrong.
Spoken with Mr. Steele about is that we do believe
Even the breathing.
there will be an issue as to criminal responsibility. We have consulted with.
Okay, criminal responsibility. That's a buzzword. I guess that's the way they use it in Kentucky. Criminal responsibility means state of mind. State of mind, not like he didn't do what we saw on the video. It's about mentally, was he of the mindset that he could be legally, criminally responsible for his actions? Okay? So that's what the buzzword criminal responsibility means. This is a huge headline. I'm writing it down. Criminal responsibility. This is the huge headline, because this is step one to a mental disease or defect type of defense, or a reduced state of mind defense, is that you want him evaluated. Let's listen.
We've consulted with folks with regards to that issue. I reached out to Mr. Steele and we basically decided that we would raise this as a joint motion. I know that, once we provide that notice, the Commonwealth is entitled to have their expert evaluate Mr. Steins. And out of expediency, I believe that Mr. Steele and I would ask for an order for that evaluation to go ahead and take place. There are a couple of issues I did want to address with regard to the examination. I don't think they will be at issue at all, but I did.
Again, I'm watching him. He does not seem right. Now, important issue here. Okay? Important issue. And I'll explain it. I think many of you know it already because I've explained it many times, but some may not have been paying attention. Maybe you missed that video. Maybe you missed that episode of my show every night on Court TV, 8 o'clock, Closing Arguments, 9 o'clock, Vinnie Politan Investigates. There is competency, and then there is legal insanity. Both deal with the mental state of a defendant, but they are very, very, very different. Okay? And they are not medical diagnoses. They are legal standards. There is competency, which is your state of mind now that you are before a court. Are you competent to stand trial? What is your state of mind now? Why is that important? You have to be able to participate and understand what is happening. If you don't, then you're not competent to stand trial. It doesn't mean you go free. It means they can't go forward with the case until you are competent. And competency can come and go. We've seen it in cases. Lori Daybell, competency. She was found not competent, then she was found competent. Not competent, now she's competent again. This can happen with defendants because your current state of mind has nothing to do with your responsibility for what you are alleged to have done. It is solely focused on state of mind. Now, can the trial proceed? You must be competent. That is one evaluation. Then there is a second evaluation, which is more of a forensic evaluation, which is going back in time to the time of the offense to determine the state of mind of the defendant at the time of the offense. This is what the attorney, Bartley, is referring to as criminal responsibility. Are you of the state of mind where you can be held criminally responsible? And sometimes both sides agree, sometimes they disagree. And it usually comes down to what the experts say. An expert will evaluate your competency now, and then there might be a separate expert or the same expert may be able to do it to go back forensically to figure out what was going on at the time of the alleged crime. And that's where you get into the insanity defense, mental disease or defect defense. So those two issues are separate. There can be some overlap because the same thing you were suffering from at the time of the offense, you could still be manifesting those symptoms and that state of mind. So they can overlap if it's sort of a continuum. If someone is paranoid schizophrenic all the way through, if someone is delusional all the way through, yes, it's possible. But it's also possible that your state of mind now is different than it was at the time of the alleged crime. You got to understand that because it's the same for every case. So every time you hear those words, competency, insanity, mental disease or defect, you got to understand the difference because it's huge. It's huge. And they are dealt with separately. But here, as you'll hear, it appears the judge wants it all done at once. But the defense is not concerned about competency. Let's continue to listen.
I did want to make a couple of notes, but
Okay.
that's how we intend to proceed, Your Honor, with the court's blessing.
All right.
So and I understand the court's position, and certainly we do.
Can I just point something out here? This has been bothering me from the beginning. Not bothering me, but it's caught my attention. Is that Sheriff Stein's attorney looks so much. I was like, oh, he looks familiar. He looks familiar. Then I figured it out. He's like the doppelganger for Nate Bargatze, the comedian. All right. The comedian's on the left. The attorney's on the right. Right. That's every time I see and hear, I mean, even sounds like him. And I guess they're, one's from Tennessee, one's from Kentucky. So I guess that they're close by, but my goodness gracious. They look so much alike to me, especially now since Nate Bargatze's hair is getting silver. Which looks great, by the way. All right, let me get back to it. I'm sorry, but I just had to point that out because I couldn't figure it out when I first saw him. I'm like, I know this guy. Have I covered a trial before? Then it hit me.
Do not raise the issue as to competency, but I understand the court and the expediency of going ahead and examining that. I understand that, but I did want to make clear that our notice only concerned the criminal responsibility, Your Honor. But the other issue that I wanted to make sure that we discussed was my understanding with the, I believe it's Sean's law that made it more clear that our expert should be able to participate in the proceedings at KCPC. And I would ask that I'll go ahead and identify him as Dr. Eric Drogan.
Okay.
Dr. Drogan be allowed to participate pursuant to the statute. And then the second piece of that is, and generally I believe this is standard procedure, but I believe that normally KCPC gives both parties an opportunity to submit materials that they may want reviewed.
Now, it's also interesting here, and this is like in every case. And this is what defense attorneys, it's not easy, right? You are trying a case, and sometimes you are arguing that your client who is next to you was out of their mind, is suffering from delusions and other things. How are they comprehending that? How are they understanding that? How are they reacting to it? Well, here's the first time where this is being made public now, and there's zero reaction from the sheriff. I mean, he's the same throughout. Everyone's saying he looks like he's medicated. I that's what it looks like. Is he, or is that his state of mind? Which is it? By the way, the co-counsel for the attorney is his wife. So they're a husband-wife team going at it here. So again, just looking at the sheriff, there's something wrong. So this evaluation is huge. Now they're going to do competency and they're going to do criminal responsibility. And I believe each side will have their own expert looking at it. Sometimes they agree. Okay. This is what you have to understand about the way our system works. This is all pre-trial stuff. So like you've watched trials on court TV where there's an expert for one side, the expert for the other side, and you feel like they never agree. There are a lot of times in these types of cases where the mental state comes up early on, doesn't just come up, right before the trial, but comes up early on, where the forensic evaluators will agree. And when they do, it usually ends up in some sort of an agreement where the defendant will be found NGRI, not guilty by reason of insanity, and placed into that sort of a mode for the rest of his confinement, which wouldn't be in a jail or a prison, would be in an institution. Those cases happen. There's a lot of them where everyone agrees. You don't see it on court TV because we see the cases that go to trial where it doesn't agree. But now we are pre-trial. So there is a chance that both forensic evaluators could go in there and come to the same conclusion. And then it's on the prosecution. It's like that puts pressure on the prosecution because the defense is going to be like, Judge, everyone's agreeing here. So I think we know what the next step is. It's entering a not guilty by reason of insanity finding. It's sort of like a plea deal, but not exactly like a plea deal. Sometimes though, prosecutors will get a second opinion. They don't agree with their own expert and they'll find another one. And then the next one comes in and then they'll say, oh no, he knew right from wrong. He could appreciate the wrongfulness of what he was doing. So I've seen cases like that as well. So this is a very important juncture of this case in how it will move forward based upon what each says about criminal responsibility. Now, if the defense expert says, no, he knew exactly what he was doing, then the defense is kind of cornered. I mean, they're in a tough spot for them to go expert shopping, right? But we'll see. We'll see what they say. Now, the fallback for the defense here is to get the level of the homicide to be reduced from what he's charged with now, which is the red rum up on top, to something less based upon his state of mind, right? Extreme emotional situation, which an expert can talk about that as well. Even though it's not a complete defense, could be a partial defense to the top charge to get it brought down to some sort of passion provocation, depending upon the circumstances. So they could be going there as well. But even that is a lot of time and could be the rest of his life behind bars. So that may or may not be the way the defense goes here. It all depends on what the experts say. And lawyers can't control that. Lawyers can't control that. And a real expert, because I was a lawyer, I practiced law, a real expert, you hire them, they will say, listen, I'm not promising you a result. I'm just going to do the evaluation. So what happens is if there's a report on the evaluation, then that becomes discoverable, across the aisle. So usually what the defense will do in most cases is have the client evaluated and then have a conversation with the expert, which would be some level of privilege about, oh, what are your findings? Do you think there's something here? And if they say no, then you're like, all right, you don't need to write a report. So again, we'll see how it plays out here, but this is where they're going. The judge obviously is concerned about competency. He's like, well, if you're raising that, then let's do competency. Now, prosecutors want to do competency as well. Why? Because they want to protect the record. They want to make sure that they don't go through having a trial and then after the fact, after a conviction, a potential conviction, a defendant comes back and says, well, wait a minute. He wasn't even competent at the time of the trial. He was never evaluated. This trial needs to be overturned. He didn't know what was going on. So that's why the judge will do the competency and why prosecutors want it as well, because they don't want to have to try to convict someone more than once if they are successful the first time. But that's a little bit ahead of the game, but it's something you have to do now. The key thing that will really steer the rest of this case is what each side says. Do they agree? Do they disagree? Does the defense expert say, yeah, there was something going on here. He did not appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions. He was in a delusional state. What he thought he was doing was saving someone rather than, like he had to do it to save someone. And don't forget the statement that he made. This is going to be, I think, the key statement to the forensic evaluation is when afterwards he tells one of the deputies who's taking him into custody, they were trying to take my wife and my kid. That sounds delusional to me, but I'm not an expert. But I believe that statement will loom large in any forensic evaluation. And I think that becomes the foundation of the mental disease or defect defense of Sheriff Mickey Steins, is that statement. It'd be interesting to see if it's on body cam. I don't know. We're getting a lot of good comments. A lot of people joining us here. I'm looking. I don't like the way he looks. It strikes me that something is wrong. That doesn't mean it's a defense, but I think there's an issue of competency right now. By the way, big thank you to Gen X and the rest of our mods. Had to remind me that when I set this stream up, I accidentally had it going at 11:30 p.m. Now, I could do a live stream at 11:30 p.m. at some point, but it won't be tonight. It's a school night. I have work tomorrow. Plus, I do my show. My show's over at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then I go home and I crash because every day is a long day. But a big thanks to the Mod Squad getting it done every day.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The Mod Squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The Mod Squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean. So let's
the Mod Squad saved us, saved the live stream today. Thank you, Gen X. And of course, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Soube, and Ashley Bouchard over in the wild, wild west of Facebook. Thank you all so much for making this so much easier to do. I don't know. I still think they're doppelgangers. I do. I'm sorry, but I just do. All right. Laura Wagner with the question, but why? Why? Poor K. Why did he do it? That question will likely be answered by the forensic evaluator. And my guess is going to be at least one of the experts, the one working for the defense, will find that he was suffering from a mental disease or defect and will explain exactly what was going on in his mind. And that's the way it usually works at trial. It's strange. I've seen a few cases where the person who's alleged to have been insane at the time actually testifies. So I've seen that. And to me, that's fascinating because obviously they're not suffering from the delusion at trial, because if they were, then they would be found not competent to stand trial. So they're in a different state of mind at trial than they were at the time of the offense. So when they testify, people kind of evaluate them in court as they are and say, well, wait a minute. This guy is making sense. This gal is making sense. I don't buy this defense. They're making, So that's why a lot of times they don't testify. And what will happen is the expert gets up there and will be permitted, because they're an expert, to testify about all the things that the defendant was telling them, the patient was telling them during this evaluation. So you get the defendant's story, not straight from his mouth, but through his expert's mouth. And sometimes it comes through the prosecution's expert's mouth as well. So that's when you learn the story. So you can also learn it if there are motions before trial and the defense is making motions for certain things, and that is part of what they are arguing, or part of the basis of what they're arguing. Competency, they'll talk about in open court, but getting into the actual defense and the reports and everything, if we were in Florida, I'd be very confident that we would see that report at some point before trial. Kentucky, I'm not sure if they're as open with evidence prior to trial as they are in Florida and a couple of other states. But that's how we'll learn the why of it, I believe. I don't think he's going to get up there and tell us why. I think the forensic psych hired by the defense will tell us. And I believe the lawyer will tell us in his opening statement, if not beforehand, if there are arguments about this issue prior to the trial. Again, I'm jumping ahead. I'm presuming that they find something wrong, but I'm saying that's my thought on when we will actually find this out through that evaluator. Now, if the report ends up on the record and becomes something that becomes a public record, then we could find out there as well. But I've seen this. There was a case in Massachusetts, Mucko McDermott, who had a wild story for his delusion about stepping through a time portal, and he was in his office. It was a workplace incident. I call it incident because I can't say the real words on social media. But, more than a dozen of his coworkers gone as a result of what he did. But his mental delusion was that he stepped through a time portal and was hunting down, again, I can't say the word, but the bad guys from WW2. And it was an elaborate story. Jury didn't buy it. He was convicted. But this is what we'll find out. Like who did he think he was taking out? And why was he doing it? What was going on in his mind? So in that case, the argument was, stepping through the time portal, what he thought he was doing was good. Hunting down the bad guys from WW2, right? That's not evil. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take him out. Then you go to Texas. The woman who, Andrea Yates and another woman who, ended up taking out some kids, their own children, but believed they were saving them from evil. And it was God who had told them to do this. So again, what they thought they were doing was right. Like, to engage in the conduct that she was actually engaged in viewing it through her delusional state, she thought she was doing something good. And that's how she could not distinguish between right and wrong. That's the delusional state you need. It's a difficult thing to reach. It's not just that, you're suffering from mental illness. That doesn't get you there. There's a lot of people suffering from mental illness that are not legally insane. It's not a medical diagnosis. It's a legal standard. Insanity is a legal term. It's a standard that is set by the court as to what the state of mind has to be in order for the criminal responsibility to go away. So that's going to be the question. And answering why, I guess that's a long answer, Laura, to your question, which I answered but didn't answer. But thank you. Always appreciate it. All right. I'm going to keep scrolling. Amber E. checking in on YouTube. Vinny, my favorite. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Okay. Zika, Gen X. Vinny needs an unindicted co-conspirator shirt. Those are a lot of words. Unindicted. I like that, though. Co-conspirator. We're working on it. Also, for fans of the Tangent Podcast, we should be getting tomorrow. We'll have a Tangent Podcast. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Tomorrow, special Wednesday edition of the Tangent Podcast. And by tomorrow, we should have the Tangenistas merch up. Okay. There has to be emotion involved. Yes. Now, emotion doesn't get you not guilty. Emotion potentially can get a reduced state of mind to a reduced charge that you'd be found guilty of. That's a possibility. Mary D needs that sweatshirt. You know where to go. You need to go to the Vinny Originale merch, true crime merch shop. Get those Vinny Originales. Oh, Sally, this is interesting. He pulled a Luigi because of the corruption in the courthouse, hit home. Interesting. I'd also be interested to see the evaluation of Luigi. That's an evaluation case too, for sure. But all of his actions afterwards, hiding and everything else. So let's get back to the sheriff. This brings up a great analysis, Sally. Thank you so much. Luigi runs and hides, right? The sheriff turns himself in. I, as a former prosecutor, if I had my prosecutor hat on, which I will put on, let's say the experts don't agree and the prosecutor is prosecuting the case. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'll argue both cases, both sides of my mouth, I'll argue. Luigi Mangione was not legally insane. He knew what he did was wrong. How do we know he knew what he did was wrong? He fled. He hid. He absconded from justice. He did anything and everything he could to get in and out. He planned it all, and he also planned his escape because he knew, ladies and gentlemen, what he did was wrong. And as a result, you cannot find him not guilty by reason of insanity. All right? That's the Luigi case. Same prosecutor, same hat. Ladies and gentlemen, what did the sheriff do after he committed this horrific act? He turned himself in. Why? Why at that moment did the sheriff turn himself in, ladies and gentlemen? It's because he knew what he did was wrong. He knew he had to turn himself in. He's a man of the law. He knows right from wrong. He knows what he did was wrong. He knew he had to turn himself in. That, ladies and gentlemen, is consciousness of the wrongfulness of his actions. And that is the legal standard for insanity. He knew what he did was wrong. That's why he turned himself in. That's why you can't find him not guilty by reason of insanity. Both sides of my mouth, I can make the argument. Absconding from justice and turning yourself in both instances, could be argued that he knew what he did was wrong. Now, let's get back to the statement, though. They were trying to take my wife and my kid. That's what the defense is going to lean on. And honestly, if he said that, and if we have that recording, we can hear it and maybe even watch it, that becomes the crucial moment. The crucial moment. We don't have the audio from what happened inside. There were some people outside that heard screaming. They heard arguing. I don't know how many specific words they heard, but that'll be crucial too, because all the evidence about the moment becomes huge in a not guilty by reason of insanity. And the evaluator should look at all that as well to see how does that jive with what the patient/defendant is saying. All of that is in the mix. All of it important in trying to figure out his state of mind. Thank you, Sally. Again, a little question like that, and I think gave me a launching pad. All right. As usual, half hour behind, so I'm going to scroll a little bit faster to get. I'd Ashley Bouchard doing an amazing job on Facebook, reminding everyone you can watch me on Court TV every night from 8 to 10, 8 to 9, closing arguments with Vinnie Politan, 9 to 10, Vinnie Politan Investigates. The only guy on television doing 2 hours of live true crime. Nobody else. Nobody. Yeah, there's these documentaries that are out there on different networks, including Court TV. Who's doing it live every night? The only guy. You can't find it anywhere else. Back in the old days, there was more than one person doing it. Now, nope. Debbie Coppola. Related? How can he seem right? He destroyed his life as well as the judges and countless others during a fit of rage. He should have known better being the sheriff. Great argument. But yeah, so this is interesting, right? The state of mind, is it connected to what he did, or is it connected to what he was thinking before he did it? Right? This is because the actions that he took themselves will create trauma that will obviously have an impact on him. And that's what Debbie's pointing out here. You do what you did. You take out the judge. You destroy his family. You destroy your own family. You destroy the community. And you were elected to be a public servant in charge of safety. How could that not put you in the state of mind that you're in now? Very possible, because that is absolutely traumatic. Absolutely. But is there anything in that state of mind before he did it? Or is it just straight up rage? I'm just mad at you and you're going to get yours. There's no defense for that. That you're done. So thank you, Debbie. Let's see. I'm going to keep scrolling a little faster. Gen X reminding us everything's available in different colors. Sally, I will ignore the Chris Cuomo conversation. All right. Dub over on Twitch, 42069. He looked like he isn't even there mentally. No, he is checked out. Checked out. And I think that's another good reason why the judge would want a competency done. I mean, does he necessarily appear like fully invested in understanding everything? Because you would think that someone who's a sheriff, like this is your life, like, or now this, like this has been your life, and now this is your life, that you would be much more into it. I mean, it's rare you have a client who is that connected to the world of justice, right? That will understand a lot of the things because they've been in it so long. Dark Hemlock on Twitch. He looks like me when I'm trying to understand what my professor is saying when I'm on 1 hour of sleep. Dark Hemlock, please avoid the 1 hour of sleep nights. I just watched a video telling us how important on social media, how important sleep is. Sleep. And I did morning radio and morning television for a bunch of years, where I had to wake up to an alarm at 3:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. And once I switched to nighttime and walked away from it, I was like, never again. Never again. I am not going to set an alarm unless I absolutely have to. I wake up when I'm done sleeping. Amazing difference. The level of clarity. Please, Dark, please, especially when you're in school. I know there's like those all-nighters. You might be studying for something, but keep your head clear. Rest. Thank you for watching. Kirsty on Facebook, the whole daughter-judge scenario could just be some delusion if he really does have a mental defect. Absolutely. Like the whole thing, like how is the daughter connected? Was the daughter connected? She may not have had any connection, but only in the mind of the sheriff. And if so, that's a big part of the defense. Big part. We don't know. True Crime Nut is here. Hello. All right. Only 20 minutes behind. A lot of people think he's medicated. Peppermint. I suggest a Vinnie Politan Q&A regarding law, your experience, your career, etc. You're an interesting fella. Maybe we'll do that like on maybe a special Sunday weekend edition live stream. Maybe we'll do just a Q&A. Or maybe we'll do a quarterly Q&A. Thank you, Peppermint. Whenever I come up with good things, I write them down. Q&A show. We'll call it Ask Vinny. Ask Vinny. Could be fun. Could be fun. Thank you. She Jukester sitting there with mouth open is weird for sure. You know what I'll do? I'll put the video back up without the audio, and then you can kind of watch him move a little bit.
I also
Let me see if I can
failed to
mute
mention.
it. I got it muted now, so you can just sort of watch him. He's not right. There's something way off. Ooh, Penny. He could be pretending to be insane. I'm sure he's seen enough unstable, delusional, and insane line of work and working with experts, knowing what they're looking for. A malingerer. Yes. It wouldn't be the first malingerer that we've seen. That Mucko McDermott that I talked about. He was a malingerer. How do I know he was a malingerer in that case? It was early on in the internet, and he had a Google search, how to fake mental illness. Sort of a smoking Google. So yeah, people do malinger. They pretend. They pretend. Oh, all heck is breaking loose in the house. All right. We got some action upstairs, a big delivery showing up. All right. Thank you, Penny. Yeah, that is something that a good expert can uncover. And sometimes when there's a battle going on here, sometimes the prosecution expert will accuse the accused of malingering. So we have seen that. We have seen that. Idaho Spuds girl. Idaho Spud girl not believing the sheriff. He knows how to look and act. Interesting. Nick 04 looks like an American tourist in Central America with that. I was just in Central America. I was in Panama. But I did not get this in Panama. I bought this domestically. This was inspired by Bing Crosby and the racetrack that he owned back in the day. All right. Mr. Howell. Someone said I look like Mr. Howell. Frankie Figs, reminding everyone, hit the like. We're over 2,000. You got to like, you got to share. You got to like, you got to share. Okay, we've got to say no. I love me some Vinnie Politan, watching you for years. Love from Trenton, New Jersey. Fantastic. By the way, I'm in Georgia now. We have some folks from Trenton, New Jersey who opened up a pizzeria in town. And they have a T-shirt that measures the miles from Trenton, New Jersey to my town here in Georgia. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's keep rolling here. All right. I'm caught up to the sleep comment, so I'm getting close. Lindsay Gandy, Vinny, what about that mock trial? Oh, we're working on it. You know, the biggest challenge I have is that I sleep, right? If I didn't sleep, I could get all this stuff done. But as previously mentioned, I sleep till I wake up. So getting the mock trial done, I got to put that back down here on my list. We're going to figure out a way to do it. I feel like the best way to do it would be me against Al Wunsch with Judge Jonesy presiding. Okay, Lauren Katie, our investigator from down in the Panhandle. There are reports he was calling his daughter to say goodbye because he knew what he was about to do. Possible. It seemed from scanning. There are scams, but scanning social media, that he had a good relationship with his daughter. I remember early on, we played the video of him and his daughter doing the karaoke or the sing along to "I Shot the Sheriff" in his car. So it looked like they had a great relationship. There was just three of them, I believe. I think it was just the sheriff, his wife, and the daughter. So they were close. It's very, very possible. But why does he call from the judge's phone? I still don't understand that. Like, was his daughter avoiding him, so he wanted to call from another line? Ashley Bouchard, never searched something on Google you couldn't explain in court. Life lessons. Well, yeah, but if you're a true crime follower, if you're a true crime investigator, if you're a true crime host, our Google searches are like, I think everyone who's in the chat, your Google searches are nuts. All of you, including me, because of the cases and the stories that we've covered. Pain in the back. I think most of the doctors can tell if they're faking it. Yes, but I've seen differing opinions more than once through the years, where one doctor's saying malingering and the other doctor's saying, no, it's legit. So they can, in fact, have differing opinions. All right. Oh, Bob says there's also a son, maybe his stepson. Interesting. First time I've heard of that. And now people are conspiring in the chat on how to get away with a crime. Get rid of your computer. Can't prove what they can't get their hands on. Not necessarily, because you still have the cloud, right? There's stuff that ends up in the cloud. Communications that you've had with other people, you can get from other people's devices. This is one of the things going on in the Karen Reed case, is things involving other people they've gotten from other folks' accounts. And then you go to Stephen Stearns, Madeline Soto. He did the factory reset twice, I believe, and they still found everything. So it's difficult. It's difficult. April Diaz, if they went through my phone, I'd be toast. Yeah. Exactly. Now, New Jersey Elaine 1. Two things, New Jersey Elaine 1. You post from Jersey, you got to give me the exit you're from. Which exit? But yeah, it is about the DNA. But I think there are some instances where the DNA can be either a red herring or not the most definitive. Because you have to remember, DNA in a red rum case is only circumstantial evidence. It's good circumstantial evidence, but it's only circumstantial evidence. It puts someone in a particular place. What it doesn't do is put them there at a particular time. It puts them at a particular place, but not at a particular time. Now, in the case of essay, a particular type of DNA is very compelling. And then the issue becomes consent or non-consent. If the Vic is underage, then it is the best evidence. The best evidence. All right. So I am caught up on all the comments. We are good to go there. Let me see. Did I have something else I wanted to show you? So I've done this a couple of times already. I don't know if everyone has heard it. Well, first I'll deal with this. Lindsay Gandy, Vinny Politan, go Eagles or go Chiefs? I was cheering against both teams in the championship games. The Chiefs because, okay, enough is enough. I'm actually at the point that I feel bad for the Buffalo Bills fans because I hate the cold, right? I hate the cold. And these folks sit out in the coldest weather year after year with great teams that just can't get over the hump, whether it was the Jim Kelly Bills or now the Josh Allen Bills. They just can't get to the next step. And I feel bad for them. And like the Chiefs, okay, enough is enough. We get it. You guys are really good. You're better than everybody. But I'm from New Jersey. Now, New Jersey is divided in half. Half of New Jersey is like the Philadelphia part of New Jersey. The other half is like the New York part of New Jersey. I'm from the New York part of New Jersey. So we really don't like Philadelphia, whether it's the Phillies, the 76ers, the Flyers, or the Eagles. It's so difficult to cheer for any of them. The only time I cheered for the Eagles is when they were playing the Patriots, when it was like, all right, enough already with the Patriots. So I don't know if I'm in that boat where I'm like, all right, it's enough with the Chiefs. I have to cheer for the Eagles again. I don't know. It's the worst of all worlds almost for me. So I don't know who to cheer for. Eagles, Patriots was tough. This is tough too. But, I have nothing against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, class act, great quarterback. And, some of the Eagles, tough players. Their coach is fun, but their fans are nuts. Remember, they booed Santa. They booed Santa Claus. That's all you have to know. Woods Whisper is one of those Philly Jersey girls. Yeah, that's how it's divided. And when I used to go to the Jersey Shore in the summertime, and I went to a place called Long Beach Island. And Long Beach Island was sort of like the dividing point, because you would have the Philadelphians would come down, North Jersey and New Yorkers would come down. And it's really the only place, because if you go south of Long Beach Island, it's all Philadelphia people. If you go north of Long Beach Island, it's all New Yorkers and northern New Jersey people. So Long Beach Island was where we all were. And, that's how I learned about this. And this really, for me, where the rivalry started. And it started when we played wiffle ball and have one guy would be the Phillies. I'd be the Mets. Somebody else would be the Yankees. And there was one kid from Maryland who would be the Orioles. And that's how we did it. But yeah, it's going to be a tough Sunday. I'll watch it, but I may just cheer for like a really close, exciting game. All right, folks, here's my situation. It's 12:37. And I have not eaten. I'm diabetic. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for watching. Make sure you watch tonight, 8 o'clock, Court TV Live, 9 o'clock, Court TV Live, True Crime. I'll be there. Thank you to the great moderators. Thank you for the great chat as well. Some great comments, always appreciated. And that's it. Tomorrow, the Tangent Podcast at this time, right around 12:30 tomorrow, we'll have the Tangent Podcast, me, Al, and Jonesy. So get ready for that. In the meantime, we do have a competition here where this is the part of the program where you have to guess my blood sugar. I try to give you a little bit of a hint. This is the time where I eat, but knowing that I was going to go till this time, I took my vitamins this morning, which were gummy vitamins. So they do have a couple carbs in them. Okay. It's my only hint I'm going to give you. So it's time for you all to guess my blood sugar each quarter, whoever guesses it the most times correctly. Now, I know last week there was a lot of controversy because there were so many comments. They were flying in so quickly that I believe I missed the actual winner who got it right. So we corrected it afterwards. So we've got a record of that. So I'll try to keep my eyes wide open here, but it's hard because the guesses come fast and furious.
Here's a type 1. He's type 1. His pancreas is on first. He has diabetes, type 1 juvenile diabetes.
Ooh, Cindy close.
And so it's time to guess. Is more or less.
New Jersey
What's his
Elaine!
blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? Under 70, he gets lightheaded.
New Jersey Elaine.
Under 60, all the alarms start ringing. Over 180 he starts to get
Congratulations.
lethargic. But when it's 90, Vinny, eyes are singing.
I just
So
like
it's
the
time
song
to
so much.
guess.
I
It's
was
more.
going to play the whole thing. The Glare with a late addition here. Just say it, Vinny. Karen Reed is innocent. I know you want to. I don't know. I wasn't there. The evidence is all over the place. We had a great program last night on Vinny Politan Investigates on this. Things are heating up for the retrial. Retrials are usually, from my perspective, not as compelling as the original trial. This one will be more compelling. Coming this spring, Karen Reed too. All right, folks. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, The Glarer. I'm going to say goodbye. I haven't necessarily landed on it, but I have a new goodbye song. And I may play a few different ones over the course of the next few weeks, and then we can figure out which one we want to land on. But this will be the new goodbye song, or at least a potential new goodbye song. So let me know what you think about the song, number one. And then, this is the part of the show where I just play it out for a couple of minutes on goodbye and give you an opportunity to post your comments, where you can say whatever is on your mind. Just make it appropriate, no personal attacks and no potty mouth. But again, thank you, everyone. Have a great, great day. And don't forget to hug the kids.
It's that time to say goodbye. Thank you for watching Vinny Live. We'll be back, but I don't know when. We hope that you will watch again. Vinny Live. It's Vinny Live. Whoa! It's Vinny Live. Thank you to our awesome Mosh. Thank you for those super chats. Please hit the like and do subscribe. Let's do it again on Vinny Live. Now before you go, just one more thing. Please post below, say anything. Vinny Live. It's Vinny Live. Whoa. Whoa. Vinny Live. It's Vinny Live. Whoa. It's Vinny Live. Now before you go, just one more thing. Please post below. Say anything.